Well, it's time to dive into the Big 12 championship game preview and prediction. I'm Pete Mundo. We are HeartlandCollegeSports.com. We're your independent Big 12 digital media outlet. We're putting this up on YouTube, on Periscope, on Facebook Live. We're in all those places. And by the way, if you're catching us in one of those places, please do go subscribe to our podcast. We drop things all week long on the podcast. Not as much video. We can start doing more video, but we put a lot of what we do on the podcast. So go to the podcast, and if you go to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and we'll send you a free Heartland College Sports koozie when you leave us a rating and a review on the podcast. Just search Heartland College Sports or Big 12. We're the first podcast under Big 12 when you search on iTunes. So it's Oklahoma, it's Iowa State. I figured I'd give you a special video for this game edition and prediction as well, along with a prediction against the spread. I'll give you all these. So Saturday's the game, 11 a.m. kickoff. It is at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Of course, Jerry World. And this matchup between these two teams the last 4 times has been really good. How about this for your fun fact? Iowa State and Oklahoma has split their last 4 series meetings 2-2, with Iowa State owning a +3 on the scoring advantage. I'm going to go through some key players, then key storylines, and then give you my prediction. For the Oklahoma Sooners, key player Ramondre Stevenson at running back. It would be easy to go with quarterback Spencer Rattler in this spot. Very easy. But I believe it's actually up to the OU running game to set up Spencer Rattler, who's a redshirt freshman, who is going to be a little jittery because he's a redshirt freshman in his first Big 12 championship game. And to settle into the offense, I want to see Ramondre Stevenson, who is averaging almost 6 yards per carry since he came back from suspension. I want to see him get that running game going and then allow Rattler to get the passing game going. I don't want to have Rattler set up the running game. That's not what I would prefer if I were Lincoln Riley heading into this game. And Stevenson has been averaging 95 rushing yards per game over his last 4 contests with 6 rushing touchdowns. So that's a good sign for the Sooners on the ground. They're going up against a great Iowa State rush defense, but I'll get to more of that Iowa State defense here coming up in a couple of minutes. Then on the other side of the ball for the Sooners, another formerly suspended player, Ronnie Perkins, is the key on defense for Oklahoma. He missed the first few games due to that suspension, but since his return, he's played a huge role in this Oklahoma defense taking that next step. He's got 38 tackles last season, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 6 sacks in 13 games, right? That's 13 games. In 4 games this year, he's got 18 tackles, almost half of that number, 8 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks in 4 games. He's been an absolute beast. And if he declares for the NFL draft, which he probably will, he's possibly a mid-first round pick. That's how good this guy has been at defensive end for the Sooners since coming back from suspension. So he's the key on that side of the ball for Oklahoma. For Iowa State, my 2 key players on offense and defense, ironically enough, 2 guys that won big-time awards. Quarterback Brock Purdy, who was named the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Wait. I'm wrong about that. It was Breece Hall who was the Offensive Player of the Year. Brock Purdy was the first-team quarterback for the Big 12, so I jumped the gun there. But I'm going to go with Brock Purdy because he's got to be efficient in the passing game. And not just that, but Iowa State has given up the fewest sacks in the Big 12 this year. And that's credit to the offensive line, but it's also credit to Brock Purdy, who's got great pocket awareness. He's averaging 227 passing yards per game, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks, completing 66% of his passes. He also has some wheels, 31 rushing yards per game for 4 touchdowns. The Cyclones have the 3rd most efficient passing game in the conference, and that has got to show up on Saturday in the Big 12 title game. On the other side of the ball, it's Mike Rose, who was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. That was announced today. He leads the Big 12 with 4 interceptions. He's tied for the most interceptions of any linebacker in the country. And these are important interceptions. These are not garbage time picks. Think about some of these interceptions by Mike Rose. The diving interception against TCU with 4 minutes left helped seal that win. And then against Baylor, he intercepted a pass in the end zone with under a minute to play with Iowa State up by 7. He's a veteran player, upperclassman. He started all 36 games in his career. He leads the team with 81 tackles, and he shows up in big moments. 13 tackles in that win over Texas a couple of weeks ago, and now he's the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Mike Rose is a huge part of slowing down this offense of the Oklahoma Sooners, which we know is just absolutely an absolute stud. The guy's an absolute stud. So here are the storylines for this game. Oklahoma's offense has been a work in progress, maybe more than it's been the last couple of years, right? But it's still the most dominant offense in the Big 12, the most efficient offense in the Big 12. And for Lincoln Riley, that's now the expectation for this Oklahoma Sooners offense. Where Iowa State has been more vulnerable is against the pass. They rank 6th in the Big 12 in defensive passing efficiency. That means that Spencer Rattler, playing in his first Big 12 title game, is going to have himself some chances. And that means that he's going to have a day. Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss, guys on the outside. And that will be set up, I believe, by that running game. If Ramondre Stevenson can get the running game going, that will open things up in a big way for the Oklahoma Sooners in this game and for that offense in particular. For Iowa State, the key for the Cyclones, because I think the Sooners are getting their 35-plus points on a fast track at AT&T Stadium. The key for the Cyclones is keeping up. And how do you do it? How do you keep up? You got to slow down the Oklahoma defensive front led by the aforementioned Ronnie Perkins. That's where this matchup is won or lost for Iowa State. In fact, I think the Iowa State offensive line against the OU defensive line is the matchup of this game. The matchup of this game to watch. Iowa State's given up the fewest sacks in the Big 12, only 10 in 10 games. The Sooners have 33 sacks in 9 games. That's the most in the conference. Whoever wins this matchup wins the game. Now for my prediction. Let's get to it. Where's my drum roll when I need it? I am going with the Oklahoma Sooners getting a 38-31 win over Iowa State. Now, my heart's with the Cyclones here. Not because I'm an Iowa State fan, but because, they haven't won a conference title in 108 years. Oklahoma's won 5 straight. So as someone who has no skin in the game, how do you not root for the team that hasn't done it in 108 years? But that being said, I got to use my head here. I got to use my head. And Lincoln Riley's team is playing its best football of the year. This is not the team that lost to Kansas State. It's not the team, heck, that lost to Iowa State. Alex Grinch has the OU defense playing its best football in a decade. That's how good that side of the ball has been for the Sooners. Also, OU didn't have to make that road trip to Morgantown last weekend due to the COVID issues. I think that helps them. That's a long trip that wears anybody down. They're rested. They're more talented. They get to play on a fast track. If this game was in Ames with the snow and 20-degree temperatures, I'd feel different. But a fast track at Jerry World, I'm rolling with the Oklahoma Sooners. I think they cover the 5-point spread as well. They are a program with more experience in this game. And I'm going to take Oklahoma with a 38-31 win over Iowa State in the Big 12 Championship. Comments, questions here. What do we got? Let me look on Periscope right now. Come on, man. That's from Mike on Periscope. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. Pete, I get Iowa State as an improved team since October, but Oklahoma's a different breed. I think OU could run away with this one with that disruptive D-line. That is from Jimmy. I don't see him running away with it, Jimmy, but I see him getting a win. Cyclones are not going to know what hit them with that speed defense. That's from Rocky. I'm telling you, this Oklahoma defense is so damn good right now. It's playing great football. And that unit's got a chip on its shoulder, by the way. Big chip on its shoulder. Scott, I understand Oklahoma has the edge in terms of yards, both offense and defense. However, I have Iowa State because they have a better O-line and has only allowed 10 sacks compared to Oklahoma giving up 21. Not only that, but Iowa State is a more complete team in my eyes. I don't know about that. A more complete. This Oklahoma team is as balanced as any Oklahoma team has been in a very long time. If you had this defense of this year with like Baker Mayfield of 2017 or Kyler Murray of 2018, they're playing for a national title, if not winning a national title. This defense with Baker's team or this defense with Kyler Murray's team, that would have been fun to watch. It's a what if, but it's a fun what if. It's a really fun what if. Matt, the regular season conference champs gets no love. I'm not saying they get no love. I think they're in this game. I just think that, when you break it down and look at the matchups, Oklahoma's playing some of the best football in the country. Now, Iowa State is too. That's what makes this fun. I'm not diminishing what Iowa State has done the last several weeks. They're playing some of the best football in America. But I think this Oklahoma team is a different beast from the team that they played back in September. On Periscope, Mike, Charlie Kohler's going to have a huge game against the blitz up the middle. That's the key, too. The tight ends for Iowa State. Tight ends for Iowa State got to have a very big game. And I think that they can. I think that they will. And that's going to be a big difference maker. Big difference maker. Going into this one. Tim writes on Facebook Live, Ramondre will want to outplay Breece Hall. I think there's going to be some motivation. Not sure if you saw this today, but Spencer Rattler didn't get first or second team Big 12 quarterback, and he took a couple of shots. I mean, really minor shots, but he had some tweets that were very telling. He's got a little bit more motivation, possibly. So that's up on heartlandcollegesports.com if you haven't seen that story yet. Mike on Facebook Live. No one could possibly argue these two aren't the best in the conference. Great matchup, but I think a lower score this time. All right. I think the fast track in AT&T Stadium leads to a pretty high-scoring game, 38-31. All right, guys, we are on Facebook Live. We're on Periscope. We're on YouTube. If you don't, go subscribe to the podcast. We drop podcasts throughout the week. Go to iTunes, search Heartland College Sports, and if you're on there, we'll get you a free koozie if you leave us a rating and a review on the podcast, and then send me a screenshot of that rating and review to Pete Mundo, M-U-N-D-O, at heartlandcollegesports.com. Love you guys. Enjoy the Big 12 championship game this weekend, and we'll talk to you Sunday for a recap podcast after the college football playoff comes out as well. Go check out the site. By the way, go sign up for the message boards at heartlandcollegesports.com. We're trying to get a nice Big 12 community going there. Go to the website, click on Members Forum at the top. It is free to sign up. We just want to be interacting with you guys on our message boards, on our forums. So thanks to all you guys. Appreciate this continuing to grow because of you. Enjoy the Big 12 championship on Saturday, and we'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.